Hi, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jeff Stark. The title of this video is called Dismayed for reasons I think you'll find in about 5 minutes. Something happened about 2 years ago in a marital context that was very, very helpful to me. I learned a great deal. I've drawn upon the memories of that experience over the last couple of years. Not only applied it to my life, but have found it very, very helpful as I've tried to apply that teaching to couples who have come to me for counseling. Here's what happened. My wife and I got into a dispute, a very short dispute, one Saturday morning. Um, the outcome of that dispute surprised me because it just discouraged me tremendously. I'm not going to get into the details of the dispute or disagreement, but when I walked away from it, I was profoundly discouraged, disappointed, on the verge of depression. And it was like all the energy and all the air in my life, in my body, had just drained out. And it was, I don't remember ever feeling that way before. And when you consider the littleness of what happened between my wife and I and the profundity of the emotional reaction on my part, it was very surprising to me. But nonetheless, I found myself to be extremely discouraged. And I just kind of wandered through the house to a room that we have. We call it the sunroom. It's got three sides that have windows that overlook some trees. And I just went out there. And my Bible was sitting on the table in front of me. So I picked up the Bible. What I normally do in those kinds of discouraging, disheartening, frustrating times, one of my go-to passages is Isaiah chapter 40 that talks about how great God is, how wonderful, how loving and kind, and how big he is and how he oversees the events of life. And oftentimes those passages in Isaiah chapter 40 are very, very helpful to me. Well, I got done with chapter 40 and I still was very discouraged. So I just kept reading, actually. And I got to chapter 41 and I read this. But you, Jacob, I took you from the ends of the earth. This is chapter 41 of Isaiah, verses 8, 9, and 10. And as I was reading this is what happened. I read, I took from you, Jacob, I took you from the ends of the earth. From its farthest corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Wow. When I read that word dismayed, it was like, bang. Whoa, that's what I am. That's what I'm really experiencing right now. Is I'm experiencing dismay, a deep, profound, discouraging sense of dismay. It just popped off the pages, and I thought, yeah, whoa, that's me. So then I kept reading and trying to understand, well, what is if the people are dismayed and God is saying don't be dismayed? Well, why can God tell them not to be dismayed? What's the antidote to being dismayed? And again, it jumped off the page at me. Let me read it again. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So God was speaking to me very, very pointedly, very, very specifically, very, very deeply in doing two things. Number one, he was pointing out the fact that I was profoundly dismayed. But he also pointed out, what is the remedy to that? And the remedy is God. The remedy was himself. The remedy is the gospel. Listen to what he says. Here's the reason why you don't need to be dismayed. I am your God. I will strengthen you. I promise to do that. I will help you. You won't be alone. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And so as I said, so what I came to understand was the reason why I was dismayed was my heart had drifted from the Lord. Dismay had come in and found root in there. And what God says was, don't be dismayed because I am your God, because I am going to uphold you. I'm going to strengthen you. I love you. You belong to me. I am yours, and I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to supply what you really need. Or in other words, it's the gospel. It was very, very, very helpful to me. And as I spent the next hour focusing on those verses that told me not to be dismayed, and why not to? Because God was big. The God he's talking about right there, I am your God, is the same God that is described in Isaiah chapter 40 that talks about how big he is and how he's in control of all things. And those who hope in this very, very big, tender, loving Father will mount up on eagle's wings and run and not faint. As I washed myself and just focused on those verses, as I watched them get down into my heart, what happened was this. My dismay went progressively down, and my joy and peace went progressively up. And I would say within about an hour at that point in time, when I got up off of that couch where I was reading these verses, I was a very, very, very different person. The dismay had gone down to nothing. The disappointment had gone down to nothing. The frustration of my wife had gone down to nothing. And God had replaced it with the fruit of the Spirit, joy and a degree of peace and contentment. And I got up and I walked away and I went back to my wife and we spent the rest of the day. And we had a great day. But I also realized something very importantly at that point, and that was the gospel has the power to expel all kinds of nasty things that can set up house and shop in our hearts. How about you? How's that apply to you? Oftentimes what we do is what I could have done that day is said, well, I'm dismayed and I'm just frustrated. And it's because of my wife, and I could have spent the next day, the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, whatever, being very angry at her because of her, what she had done, and blame my disappointment, my frustration, my dismay really on her. And that could have gone on for many, many years, actually. I grew up in a family where this was our bread and butter. Things would happen, we'd get angry at each other, we wouldn't understand the part about the gospel and how it can change a person's heart even when they are dismayed. So that could have been a terrible, terrible day, but God showed up and was very, very helpful to me. And that lasted for about 2 hours, and I finished out the day with my wife, and we had a wonderful day. But how about you? When you get anxious, discouraged, fearful, dismayed, do you turn to the Lord? Do you blame your experience that on your partner, on your children, on your experiences at work, or whatever? Or do you see that as an occasion where God wants you to draw near to him, remember his promises to you, and as those take root in your heart, I think you'll have a similar experience that one like I had. But that's Isaiah chapter 41. This is part one of this video series we're labeling Dismayed, but I hope that will be helpful to you. Please, if you find yourself fearful, anxious, or dismayed in particular, turn to Isaiah chapter 41 and look at those verses and ask God to draw near to him. He will draw near to you. And I think you're going to find that your dismay is going to go down and it will be replaced by God and his joy and his peace and his promises. I hope that's helpful to you. See you next time.